Luca, welcome to the stream. We are, of course, joking. How are you doing?
What's going on? Welcome.
Hey guys, happy to be here.
Thanks so much for hopping on. I'd love to start with kind of a little bit of the history of Pudgy Penguins, because I know that there's been like a series of eras for the company, and you're obviously taking it in somewhat of a new direction or expansion now. But what's the story that you tell about the genesis of the project, your involvement over time, and like where things are going?
So the 60-second version is, I was a huge collector of Pudgy Penguins when they launched about 3.5 years ago. They were kind of one of the three golden projects of the NFT bull run. It was really Bored Apes, Punks, and Penguins.
Yep.
Unfortunately, Penguins kind of got mismanaged. They were founded by a bunch of 18-year-olds in their college dorm basement with no operational experience. So at no fault to them, Bored Apes ended up being a $4 billion business. Punks became a legacy collection with a multi-billion-dollar market cap. And Penguins kind of withered to the wayside. But at that time, while I was collecting the NFTs, I was a CMO and co-founder of a company called Gel Blaster, which was North America's fastest growing toy business.
No way.
I was really involved in just IP.
You gotta get those for the studio.
Yeah, I see those ads all the time. I didn't realize you were behind this.
Ben,
Wow.
Ben, order some Gel Blasters right now.
Yeah.
I'll get you guys I'll send some to the office. But
Fantastic.
that I was really immersed there. And so when I just closed my eyes and I thought Pudgy Penguins, I just thought this is a multi-billion-dollar business. And so rather than being like a disgruntled holder who was complaining all day, I decided to step up to the plate. And I bought the project for about $2.5 million 3 years ago, April 4th. So we're about 3 years and 3.5 months into this. I think what we want to be today is, I think, twofold. I think on one side of the spectrum, we want to be the face of crypto. When you think crypto today, I think crypto is intimidating. It's taboo. But I think there's no better way to invade the hearts and minds of everyday consumers than with cute Pudgy Penguins. And I think there's no better representative from a mascot perspective for the industry than the Pudgy Penguin. The story all encompassing. And on the other side of the spectrum, we want to be the face of penguins around the world. When you think penguins, I want you to think Pudgy Penguins. And I just believe that the penguin animal is severely underdeveloped.
Do you guys like do any charity things for the actual penguins? Kind of like a royalty, a little give back for those down.
We've done a couple activations. I think children's health and penguins, I think, are the two places that we donate, and we're charitable.
Makes sense.
Awesome. Very cool.
You mentioned that the early Pudgy Penguins community was unhappy with the development of the project. It sounds like that's in contrast to the other NFT projects where people were satisfied. But from my perspective, like a lot of these, the 10K NFTs go out, they mint, and then I don't really engage with these projects deeply enough to know like what is the community clamoring for. So what was the community in Pudgy Penguins clamoring for that they weren't receiving? And then what are you building that actually will satisfy the community, or what are they asking for, and what are you trying to give them?
Yeah, I think what every community member in crypto wants is productivity and pushing the boundaries and forward progress within, both the internal IP and maybe just for the category in and of itself. But just to be clear, like, we bought Pudgy Penguins under the guise that the NFT race and the NFT build out was severely underdeveloped. And there was a bar still yet to be set. And we bought this business to win in this category and ultimately to win in the broader crypto category. And so I think from our perspective, it's not just winning for our community members within our small niche and within our, within the Pudgy Penguin universe. It was really winning for the entirety of NFTs, because prior to us, NFTs stayed in this digital universe, and this, vision that Ready Player One was going to come 20 years earlier than it actually was going to come. And I thought, if this was the next generation brand and all of these companies were raising billions of dollars under this guise, then as a brand builder for the last 8 years, I felt like they just weren't doing all of the obvious things that all these brands have to do to win. Are we going digital? Is everything going to be digital 20 years from now? Sure. But today, people need physical interactions. And I think that's a huge reason why we've won and we've been so successful the last couple of years, is we've really blended the two worlds, right? We have, toys in 10,000 retailers. Every toy is tied in with an NFT and crypto experience. And the whole thing really segues. You would build this thing the same way Hasbro or Mattel or Disney would build it, but it's crypto native, it's internet native, and I think that's the difference.
How do you balance developing the IP in the way that you believe will create the most value long term, and kind of the desires or wishes from the community of initial holders, right? Because as a business, you constantly need to be evolving, reinventing yourself. And I imagine there's a bunch of good parts about having this super loyal, dedicated fan base that's, heavily invested in the projects, but then there's also some hard decisions to make at different times.
Yeah, I think the community's bought in under this guise that we are creating the internet's Mickey Mouse and that everything that we do is to support that thesis, and they're aligned in that vision. I think the problem, or not the problem, but I think the hard part about this business, and it's relevant for a lot of crypto founders, but I coined this like 3 years ago, which is we're basically building a publicly traded startup where I have all of the cons of being publicly traded with none of the pros, and I'm a startup. Right. So if I shit the bed, right, my price in crypto is the best marketing because it's such a hyper financialized asset class. And I do something great, price goes up, holders are in the money. The more in the money they are, the more they champion, the more they recycle those profits back into the product, and the different different product lines that we have within the business. But then obviously if you shit the bed, the financialization to me is a hyper form of alignment, and it can be your greatest superpower, which I think we've been able to harness and galvanize over the last couple of years, or it can be your greatest kryptonite. And you've seen situations like this with basically 98% of founders in crypto that ends up biting them in the ass. They make one wrong step, they don't have that relationship, they don't have their rapport with the community, and then the whole thing just kind of backfires.
Yeah. Do you think if you look back at the NFT category holistically, are projects is part of that kryptonite just being over-capitalized? Has that how much of a strength have you? I don't know how resource constrained you guys have been exactly, but I imagine it's quite a bit more constrained than many other projects in the space, especially as certain projects got marked, really, really high, a bunch of capital flooded in, and I don't really have a good lens on how that's worked out.
Yeah, I think that's just entrepreneurship 101. I mean, crypto in general makes people more money than they're supposed to make. It's kind of like there's an arbitrage that I talk about a lot where there's a real opportunity for builders in Web 2 to come here because the premium on users and success here is probably 10 to 15 to 20x what it would be in the real world. Meaning like the EBITDA of Pudgy Penguins, might be, we might be a $350 million business today. We've created, $5+ billion in value over the last couple of years. And, our total ecosystem is north of $2 billion. So I think from our perspective, it's really just a matter of, being resource constraint has been the one of the biggest things for us, and probably the lens that I'm most proud about. I mean, our next 10 competitors that we've outperformed over the last couple of years have 9 figures in funding, whether it's from venture or community. But that's naturally every entrepreneur gets into that problem at some point, unless you really fight tooth and nail over the course of a long period of time to earn that capital. But in crypto, you can make a lot of capital and raise a lot of capital really quickly. And the NFT cohort of 2020, 2021 is exactly that. I mean, guys made, 50, 100, $1 billion, within 12 months of being in business. You're not going to be a superstar organization, off of that type of growth, unless you're just a 1 in a million entrepreneur and group. But that wasn't the case here. And so I think us being scrappy has been huge for us. We raised, $9 million our seed round, and we haven't raised anything else for Pudgy since then. And this year we'll do $40-50 million in revenue. So, so far so good.
That's awesome. Can you talk about the decision to surface crypto functionality to the user, to the customer? The Instagram has 1.8 million followers, never really mentions crypto. There's a world where you're communicating to a non-crypto native audience. You have a different group of customers that's very crypto native. How do you balance those things out? Is it all just one on-ramp, one direction or the other direction? How do you think about that dichotomy?
Yeah, Yeah, so I'm a consumer product guy, and in consumer products, conversions and action.
Sure.
In crypto, I think with building IP and character and love and affinity, I think conversion is a process,
Hmm.
right? And so I think the idea that you immediately sell people on something that is still taboo and still intimidating, I think is a mistake. And so my objective is, how do I create love and affinity around this character, positive impact around this character, positive association around this character over the course of time. And as they become super fans and participate in fandom, they then go and figure out that this is crypto and go down that rabbit hole. And I
Hmm.
think that's a really beautiful story. Now, on one side, that's epic. But I think a lot of people always misinterpreted our strategy, which is like, oh, how do you get the non-crypto user to then go buy our assets, whether it's our token or our NFTs? And it's actually a misappropriated way of how I think people look at the strategy. It's more impactful if you're a crypto native. Let's say you're a crypto whale and your mom or your cousin or your niece or your nephew or your son or your daughter is then participating in a Pudgy Penguin, buys a Pudgy Penguin product at Walmart, or shares you with an Instagram piece of Instagram content or a game or something like that. That aha moment for that crypto whale is then like, oh, I've been in crypto for how long? Nothing has transcended into my family the way that this has. This is clearly doing something for the industry that nobody else is doing. And that's kind of like our edge, is like, we believe crypto's for everyone. But right now it's not positioned for that, right? It's positioned for the finance bro, for the cool guy. But if we really want crypto to succeed, it's got to be for the woman. It's got to be for the child. As silly as it sounds,
Hmm.
those kids are becoming crypto native. And an anecdotal story that I think your audience will love is, I started to meet some of the top Solana traders over the last couple of months. These kids are 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Guys who made 20, $30 million in cash, right? Are
Wow.
16, 17 years old. Couldn't cook a steak medium rare if they wanted. Those are the crypto native, right?
Yeah,
And
that's
and
right.
and that next generation will
That's
actually be
crazy.
native.
Yeah.
Unlike, you or I, who maybe saw the world before crypto,
Yep.
we're
Had to
crypto
learn about it.
adjacent and we're crypto familiar, but
Yeah.
we're not native. This
Yeah.
next
Yeah. Yeah.
cohort that's coming in the next 5 to 10 years will be crypto native. And
Yep.
that's the audience that I really want to speak to.
That's pretty awesome. Talk to me about the decision to trade-offs between the Ethereum blockchain and Solana. Obviously, the project originally launched on Ethereum, but the Pudgy token is on Solana now. What are the trade-offs? How do you think about those? Is there one power law winner that's running away with the game, or is there a world for both?
Yeah, I think they're functionally trying to achieve two different things, in my
Hmm.
opinion. I think Ethereum's goal and objective and mission is to be a decentralized network state, which I think is really important for the sake of humanity, right? Like, if you weigh a bunch of different variables, AI and just everything that might come into the future, like having a decentralized network state is really,
Hmm.
really important.
Hmm.
And I think it plays its role really well doing that. I think Solana is the first blockchain that I've really interfaced with from an outside org in, that I think is really trying to be an organization that's built to win, right? And they want to capture as much value in winning and building the biggest and best blockchain in the world, and then all the things that come with that, right? Like low latency, really fast,
Yeah.
amazing BD, getting all the top advisors in to come and help, bootstrap and help ecosystem apps. It's really run like a Silicon Valley organization, and its function, I think, is to win,
Hmm.
right? But there's two different functions. I think building a centralized network state and building a blockchain to win, right, and to dominate tech and to because blockchains fundamentally are, what are they really, right? A lot of people tell themselves a lot of different stories. To me, they're borderless payments, right? And they're global liquidity and global composability, right? Like, those are its two functions. And if you actually understand that as like an entrepreneur building in the web, those solve two really big problems, right? Like immense problems, right? Like Stripe used to, Stripe and PayPal would take your money and shut you down and do the whole nine.
Hmm.
Like blockchain will remove that edge. And so I think they're functionally two different organizations.
Yeah.
I think from our perspective, we wanted to launch our token because we wanted everyone to have a piece of our main character, this internet's Mickey Mouse. We wanted our followers on Instagram and on YouTube and on TikTok to be able to participate, in purchasing that token. And today it's hard to argue that Solana doesn't have the best experience for that person coming from Instagram to then go in and purchase something quickly, right? Like Ethereum today, even with cheap gas fees, like no one wants to spend a couple bucks, on some gas fees, even when that's relatively low for the ecosystem. They'll want to spend a couple bucks buying the token, and that's about it.
Sure.
So it seemed like a good fit.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for stopping by. This is a fantastic conversation.
Yeah, I
learned
really
a lot.
appreciated your perspective.
This
Would
is
love
really
to have
cool.
you back on again for a longer interview.
Yeah.
This was great.
Yeah.
And
Good
I'm
man.
excited for our Gel Blaster Nerf battle, basically.
Yeah, we need. I
gonna
need
send
to
you
be
to
able
do
You guys
that.
to.
send me an
John,
address. It's going to be pretty obnoxious, the
I'll send
packages
it to
I'm
you.
going to
I'll
send.
send
So
it to
stay
you.
tuned.
Okay, great. We'll talk to you soon.
Amazing.
Goodbye.
Thanks for coming on.